The cruiser Falzareth drifted silently in the dark, its metallic hull gleaming under the pale light of a dying star. Inside, Commander Tralvex of the Kareth Dominion sat hunched over a flickering holomap, his black eyes narrowed. "They call it the Spectre," his second officer muttered, claws tapping nervously on the console. Tral snorted. "Ghost stories? Humans are not ghosts. They're mammals with guns. Track the signal." The officer nodded, feeding the data into the scanner. A green dot blinked at the edge of the screening, fading in and out like a heartbeat. It was the human ship's signal. They had been chasing it for 6 cycles across 3 systems. Every time they got close, the signal vanished. Then, days later, it would appear behind them. Impossible, illogical, but it was happening. "They're taunting us," Tral hissed. "Warp again. Intercept course." Now, engines hummed, lights dimmed, the Falzareth leaped through hyperspace. Far behind them, in the shadow of an asteroid belt, the Spectre powered up. Inside the black-holed vessel, Captain Reed watched the Dominion cruiser vanish from his screen. "Hook, line, and warp," he whispered. The AI voice responded softly. "Dominion, ship has jumped. Calculating counter trajectory, weapons primed, cloak stable." Reed's face was tired, scarred, but focused. His crew was dead. Only he and the ship remained. One man, one machine, against an empire. He wasn't here to win a war. He was here to teach them fear. The Dominion had underestimated humanity. Everyone did. When humans first stepped into the galactic stage, they were ignored, primitive, scattered, weak. But then the Dominion destroyed New Kyoto. 10 million dead. No warning, no reason. That's when Earth changed. Humans didn't cry. They hunted. Tralvex paced the command deck, watching the starfield spin as the ship exited hyperspace. The signal was gone again. Nothing. Just silence. "This is ridiculous," the second officer growled. "Their engines are slower. Their weapons outdated. How are they doing this?" "Fear makes you sloppy," Tral snapped. "Check the scans. Every rock, every echo." A junior tech blinked in confusion. "Sir, there's an anomaly. Behind us, very close." Tral turned slowly. "How close?" The tech gulped. 4,000 units, right on our tail. It wasn't there a second ago." He didn't finish the sentence. The ship rocked violently. Lights flickered, alarms screamed. Something had hit them. Impact on aft shielding. A voice shouted. Trow stared at the display. The anomaly was gone again. "Report, minor damage." But the projectile was a piece of our own armor plating. From last cycle's battle. It was thrown back at us. Trow's blood ran cold. The human had doubled back, picked up the scrap, threw it into their engines at near light speed. Mockery, precision. A message. "He's behind you." Captain Reed floated in the dark, watching the cruiser panic. He could feel it. The tension in their movements. The uncertainty. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The Spectre wasn't built for war. It was a courier ship. Fast, quiet, disposable. But Reed had modified it, every inch. He stripped it down, reinforced the frame, added scavenged Dominion tech. He trained the AI to think like a predator. He wired the controls directly into his neural link. The ship was him now, and he was a ghost. The Dominion sent more ships, 3, then 5, then 10. Tral. Vex was put in charge of the entire strike group. His orders were simple: eliminate the human ship, end the nuisance, restore the Dominion's honor. But every time they closed in, the signal vanished, and every time it vanished, something happened. One ship lost power. Another was found drifting, its crew missing. One exploded before sending a distress call, and, always, in the data logs, just a few seconds of footage. Reed's face, barely lit, staring into the camera with eyes like frozen flame. No words, just a stare. The message was clear. You're next. Tral couldn't sleep. He stopped eating. He started seeing things. Shadows where none should be. Voices in the hum of the engines. "Commander," his second whispered one night, "what if we're wrong? What if the stories are true?" "What stories?" Trell asked coldly. "The humans, that they don't need sleep, that their pain makes them stronger, that their ships are alive." Trell laughed, but it sounded forced. "Fairy tales." The officer leaned closer. "But we've seen it. One man, one ship, bleeding us dry." Trell slammed a fist into the console. "I will not be hunted by an ape in a metal box." The lights flickered again, then went out. Total black. Reed had slipped inside the perimeter. No alarms. No warnings. He moved the Spectre silently, its hull coated in light-bending polymer. Every scan reflected void. The ship hummed with hidden energy. He fired a pulse, not a weapon, a code. The Dominion's network blinked. 5 ships dropped offline. Panic spread. The AI had injected a virus. Dominion systems collapsed. Reed didn't smile this time. He remembered New Kyoto. He remembered the screams. He whispered to the void, "You started this. I'll be the last thing you ever see." On the Falzarith, Trell stared at the empty screens. His fleet was dead or dying. And then, a ping. Behind them, he turned slowly. There it was, the human ship. No lights, just a silhouette. Reed's face appeared on the bridge screen. This time, he spoke. "You've tracked my signal," he said calmly. "But you never understood." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I wanted you to." Then the screen went black, and the ship behind them opened fire. Not with lasers, with everything it had. Scammed every Dominion weapon, every twisted, hacked module. The Spectre screamed vengeance, and hell followed. Tralvex crawled from the wreckage, blood trailing from a cut across his brow. The command deck was in shambles, panels sparking, the main display shattered. Bodies littered the floor, some still twitching. He reached for the comms, but the screen only showed static. The lights flickered on for a moment, casting a pale glow over the bridge. Then they cut again. He could still hear it, the low hum, not from his own ship, from outside. The human ship was still there, waiting, stalking. He grabbed a sidearm, stumbled to the emergency hatch, and forced it open. Smoke poured out. Fires burned in the halls. The once-proud warship was a graveyard. Now, he knew then, they weren't hunting the human. He was hunting them. Captain Reed stood alone in the Spectre's command pod. The inside of the ship was tight, dark, and quiet, his only company the AI's soft voice and the occasional beep of a sensor returning new data. He didn't celebrate the kill. He didn't say anything, just breathed, slow, measured, "We'll send more," he muttered. Double quotes, "Yes," the AI replied. 3 destroyers, approaching, 4 days out. You disabled their network temporarily. They're reverting to long-range subspace. Too slow, he said. They'll die before they see me. The AI paused. And after that, Reed looked out into the stars. We keep going. He didn't need to explain. They both knew. 4 days later, the Spectre drifted into the edge of a nebula filled twisting clouds of red and gold, hiding the dark. The Dominion destroyers entered behind him, confident, methodical. They thought they were prepared. They weren't. The first ship, Ravager 93, exploded without ever firing a shot. A mine cloaked and launched from one of the wrecked cruisers Reed had left behind. Inside the debris, the second ship lost control of its targeting systems. The virus had returned, reactivating through a tiny shard of broken Dominion comms gear that had been magnetized to its hull, placed there by Reed to cycles earlier, back when the fleet thought they were chasing him. The third destroyer, Vale's Claw, turned back. It never made it out of the nebula. Reed had waited at the exit path, floating in complete silence. One torpedo, one dot straight through their ventral shielding. The Dominion High Court finally took notice. A war council was called on Narth Prime. Massive screens showed sensor footage of the destroyed ships. AI diagnostics failed to explain what had happened. The human has adapted to our patterns. One of the admirals growled. He's just one man. Another shouted. Then why are we losing ships like children swatting at shadows? Asked a quiet voice. They had no answer. Meanwhile, Reed docked on an abandoned mining moon near the Cerex fringe. He climbed down into the narrow shaft, found what he needed: dulled Dominion shield cores, half buried under dust. Still functional, still deadly. He brought them back to the Spectre, rebuilt them, rewired them. The ship groaned under the strain, but didn't break. How long until they triangulate again? He asked the AI. 17 hours. They're desperate. Broadcasting wide-range bounties. Let them come, he said. He was working on something new, something dangerous. The bounty brought others. Not Dominion this time. Mercs, pirates, hunters, some human, most not. One by one, they came for Reed. One by one, they vanished. A massive battlecruiser tried to trap him in a gravity net. He disabled it with a single EMP spike from a homemade cannon disguised as a salvage beam. 2 stealth ships tried to ambush him from both sides. They didn't know he'd hidden mines in his own. Jettisoned waste containers bait for their sensors. An old friend, a mercenary named Hallie Sven, sent him a message. Reed, stop. You can't keep this up. You're one man. Reed sent a reply. That's all it takes. He wasn't trying to win a war. He was trying to change the rules. Each time the Dominion responded, they followed procedure, patterns, structure. Reed didn't. He adapted, improvised, burned through plans, and then rewrote them on the fly. The Dominion played chess. Reed was flipping the board. One night, if time could even be called that, in deep space Reed sat in the pilot's seat, fingers tapping against the controls. The AI spoke gently. Captain, I have detected a child's distress signal. Human, faint. Planet Y-39, unmarked, no settlements recorded. He froze. A trap. Maybe. He stared at the blinking light on the screen, then nodded. Set course. Y-39 was dead, cold, grey, but the signal was real. A downed escape pod, half buried in snow. Reed approached slowly, weapon drawn, suits sealed. He found her inside. A girl, human, maybe 9 years old, thin, weak, but breathing. Eyes wide with fear, she whispered, "Are you the ghost?" He paused, then said, "I'm here to help." She passed out. He carried her back to the Spectre, wrapped her in a thermal blanket. He hadn't seen another living human in months. He hadn't spoken to one in longer. Something inside him shifted, not softened, not yet, but it moved. When the Dominion tracked the rescue signal, they came fast. Not a fleet this time. A hunter-killer ship, Dressel new tech. No patterns, no hesitation. They had learned, and they wanted Reed dead. He didn't run. Instead, he turned the Spectre around, powered every stolen weapon, and flew straight into the dark. The AI's voice was steady. Enemy ship locked. Cloak ineffective against thermal scan. "I know," he said. "Enemy weapons charging. I know." Escape is, I'm not escaping. A pause. Understood. The battle wasn't clean, wasn't elegant, it was violent. Reed's ship took heavy damage. The side hull cracked. A fire broke out near the medbay. But he kept flying, dodging, luring the hunter into asteroid fields, solar flares, debris zones. He used everything. Every trick, every scrap, and when the drizzle finally got a lock on him, he didn't dodge. He turned toward it. Full burn. The ships collided at speed, not by accident. A deliberate, violent, suicidal strike. Except, Reed wasn't on the bridge. He'd ejected moments before, in a hardened pod, with the girl strapped beside him. They watched from a nearby moon as the spectre and the drizzle burned together in the sky. Reed was silent. The AI's last words had been transmitted to his neural link. "Rest well, Captain. You did what they never could," he whispered back. "You did too." And then, for the first time in a long time, he cried. The escape pod hissed as it cooled on the barren surface of the moon. Thin air, cold ground, no signs of life. Reed carried the girl in his arms, wrapped tight in a pressure suit. She stirred but didn't wake. He looked up. In the sky above, the fire of the spectre still flickered as pieces of the Dominion ship and his own floated apart, cooling debris scattered like stars. Reed stood there for a long time, silent. He had survived, but he had nothing left. No ship, no weapons. Just the girl, and the war wasn't over. The girl's name was Lysa. She didn't remember much, just the flashing lights of her transport being hit, the sound of adults screaming, and her mother's voice yelling for her to run. She had obeyed. Now, she had no one, except Reed. Didn't speak often, but when he did, she listened. He was quiet, rough, but never unkind. His eyes carried something heavy, like he'd seen the end of everything, and kept going anyway. They built a small shelter from the pod's remains. Solar panels kept power flowing. Reed found a signal spike in the storage unit and extended it, boosting for short-range subspace. "Maybe someone will pick it up," he said. Lysa looked at him. "What if it's bad people again? Then I'll stop them." "How?" He didn't answer, just kept working. 2 days later, a ship responded. It wasn't Dominion. It wasn't human. It was something else. The signal was strange, fragmented, stuttering. Reed patched it through an old translator module. "Refugees, not armed. Need help." He hesitated, then transmitted a simple response. "Land careful. Not safe yet." The ship arrived within hours, small, rusted, and limping. A family of 3 stepped out. Insectoid features, soft speech. They flinched when they saw Reed. But when they saw Lysa run out to greet them, their posture changed. They smiled. They helped. Reed didn't trust them at first, but they shared food, repaired his beacon, gave Lysa a warm blanket and a strange fruit that made her laugh. They didn't ask for anything, and Reed began to hope. More came, a trickle, then a stream. Refugees, outcasts, hunted aliens, even a few ex-Dominion deserters. They followed whispers of a place where the ghost of the humans had gone to rest, a place of safety, a place no Dominion dared follow. Within 2 weeks, there were 16 of them. Reed set up outer perimeter sensors, traps, drones. The deserters helped build a shield array using scrap parts from their busted cruisers, called it Ghost Town. And the name stuck. But the Dominion didn't forget. They tracked the spike eventually. They sent scout stealth drones with high-powered lenses. Reed saw them coming. He let one go, deliberately. He wanted the message delivered. "I'm still alive." The Dominion's War Council received the footage days later. 1 human man, a group of aliens, children, survivors, living under his protection. It enraged them. If he's building a resistance, we end it now, barked a general. He's no longer a lone hunter, said another. He's becoming a symbol. They authorized a purge ship, one of the big ones, the kind used to wipe entire colony worlds. It launched with no delay. Back on the moon, Ghost Town was growing. Reed rarely slept. He monitored the skies, built weapons from salvaged cores, reinforced the shield, trained some of the younger refugees in simple defense tactics, how to hide, how to move, how to think like prey that wanted to bite back. Lysa stayed near him. She watched everything he did, copied his movements. One night, while cleaning an old Dominion rifle, she asked, "Will we have to run again?" Reed shook his head. "No, promise." He paused. "I don't make promises I can't keep." She looked down. Then he added, "But I'm not planning to run." She smiled. That was enough. When the purge ship arrived, it didn't hide. It entered the system like a god massive, dark, bristling with weapon ports. The kind of ship that didn't ask questions. It gave orders. It delivered death. Its eye scanned the surface of the moon. One settlement, small, weak, it began charging its main cannon. But before it could fire, its targeting array blinked out. Just for a second, just long enough for the beam to miss. The moon trembled as the impact carved a canyon a mile wide, nowhere near Ghost Town. The Dominion commander roared. "Fire again." The array blinked again. The AI reported interference. Unknown source. Then something they didn't expect. A spike in their own power grid. Their reserve core drained rapidly, then overloaded. Someone had hacked them. From the surface, Reed stood at the control panel of the hacked beacon. Lysa stood beside him, eyes wide. The code streaming across the screen had been prepared weeks in advance, tuned to mimic Dominion AI pulses, bounce across comms, infect everything. It had one purpose, to turn their strength against them. "You're using their code?" one of the refugee engineers asked. "Not exactly," Red said. "I improved it." The purge ship began to list. Its ventral stabilizers failed. It started to descend. Too fast. The engines wouldn't respond. The crew screamed. And from the surface, the people of Ghost Town watched as the mighty Dominion purge ship crashed into the far side of the moon. A quake followed. Dust covered the stars. Then silence. Reed walked alone across the grey rocks, a rifle strapped to his back, a signal pinging from the wrecked purge ship. He climbed over twisted metal and burning supports. Bodies were everywhere, but not all of them were dead. He found the Dominion commander pinned beneath a beam, blood in his throat. He looked up at Reed with hatred and fear. "You think you've won?" he hissed. Reed crouched beside him. "No," he said. "I'm just getting started." The commander coughed. "We are infinite. You are one man." Reed leaned closer. "I was. Now I'm a town." He stood, left the commander to die. News of the crash spread, not just through Dominion channels, all over the fringe sectors. A single man had downed a purge ship, protected refugees, tamed a dead moon. The story spread like fire, and for the first time in a long time, others began to believe. In the ghost, in the human, in the fight. Reed stood with Lysa and the others as a new ship landed, human this time. Ragged, military, earth markings half burned off. A grizzled woman stepped out. "Name's Vega," she said. "Heard you were still breathing." Reed nodded. Barely. She looked around at the makeshift town, at the people gathered in silence, then said, "We've got others, fighters, scattered, tired, but not dead. If you're building something here," Reed answered before she finished. "I am." She nodded once. Then Earth is with you. Reed looked at the stars again. There was no ship, no spectre, but the mission hadn't ended. It had just changed. He wasn't just hunting anymore, he was building something. A fire. And others were coming. Vega brought more than words. She brought data maps, intel, Dominion weaknesses, hidden supply routes, and old rebel codes that had been buried after the Earth-Dominion War's collapse. She had 2 ships in orbits, more beat up and heavily modified for stealth. Reed looked over the schematics she spread out on the floor of the old mining station. A dozen refugees crowded around, watching quietly. Lysa sat beside him, chewing on dried fruit, alert and serious. "This one here," Vega said, tapping a red dot on a star chart. "It's a fuel relay. Dominion doesn't advertise it, but they move energy cores through this system every 5 cycles. No escort, no alarms. They think nobody's stupid enough to touch it." Reed stared at the dot. "Let's be stupid, then." The operation was quiet, fast, surgical. Reed flew one of Vega's ships himself. Lysa stayed behind with the others, angry about it. But she understood. She had watched him work. She knew what he did wasn't clean, wasn't safe. And if he didn't come back, someone would have to take his place. The relay sat deep in an asteroid field. The Dominion had left it unguarded for so long they stopped thinking about it. Reed thought about it. He landed hard, cut through the outer hull, knocked out the internal scanners. Vega's team followed, fast and trained. They were in and out in 23 minutes. 4 energy core stolen, 2 enemy engineers taken alive, 0 alarms triggered. It was the first real blow in months, but more than that, it was proof the ghost wasn't just haunting the Dominion anymore. He was hurting them. When they returned to Ghost Town, the people were waiting. Lysa ran out first, arms wide, then stopped short when she saw his face. No smile, just tired eyes. "Did it work?" she asked. He nodded. Cheers went up. Not wild, not loud, but real. Hope. Real. Solid hope. In the days that followed, Ghost Town grew bolder. They started building ships. Small ones at first, patchwork, ugly, but fast. Vega helped train new pilots. Reed taught them how to think like predators, when to strike, when to vanish. One of the Dominion deserters, a quiet technician named Caleth, built a comm system from 6 different languages. It could send encrypted pulses to Systems 3, jumps out. They called it the Whisper. It became the lifeline of the Resistance. Meanwhile, the Dominion staggered. They increased patrols, doubled bounties, scanned every sector near the fringe, but the ghost kept slipping through their claws. Even worse, other humans began to appear. Not many, just a few, but they weren't fighters like Reed. They were farmers, engineers, teachers, people who'd heard about a place where the Dominion didn't rule. Some came broken, some came desperate, but all came with something to give. And Ghost Town kept growing. But then everything changed. The Dominion called for a cleanse directive. It wasn't just about Reed anymore. They wanted to burn every system he'd touched. Any moon that showed signs of human tech. Any planet that showed signs of refugee life. They were sending exterminators, no black ships with no flags, just flame and silence. One hit a moon called Tal Doctor in -4, no warning. 20,000 gone in a firestorm. The message was clear. Hope is disobedience, and disobedience will be erased. Reed stood over the Whisper terminal, listening to the emergency pulses from Taldrin 4. His jaw clenched. He didn't say a word for a full minute. Then he looked at Vega. "Tell me we can hurt them again." She nodded. "I've got a plan. "But it's ugly." "I'm not afraid of ugly," he said. The Dominion fleet had a command ship called Task, then massive, nearly untouchable. It never entered battles, only observed, watched, controlled fleets from behind. It was the Dominion's brain. Vega wanted to cut it out. "We don't destroy it," she explained. "We slice it. We make it bleed, make it show weakness. Every empire lives in fear of the first crack. We give them one." Reed studied the ship's orbit. It never left Dominion space, but its signal-its encrypted command codes bounced between multiple systems. If they could intercept one, ... "We go after the link," Reed said. "Not the head, the vein." They prepared for 5 days. Lysa helped rewire the stolen energy core into the shuttle's mainframe. She had learned too fast for her age. But no one stopped her. Reed had seen her fire a rifle at a practice drone. The day before, it hit dead center. She was becoming something sharp. He wasn't sure if that was good or tragic. The mission, to cut the Dominion's command relay, went sideways fast. They made the jump to the relay moon, but the Dominion was waiting. Not a trap, just luck. A patrol had stopped to refuel. Random, unpredictable. The moment Reed's team landed, alarms screamed. Vega's second-in-command was killed instantly. The rest scattered. Reed dragged 2 of them through the wreckage of a downed CUM tower, firing back as laser blasts lit the sky. He made it to the uplink terminal, broke in, uploaded the virus he'd spent 6 nights writing, one that wouldn't destroy but scramble, mix truth with fiction, send fake orders across every active Dominion relay. It wouldn't last long, but it didn't have to. 1 hour of chaos was enough. He looked to the sky. The evac ship was smoking. No way out, so he turned on the beacon. Not for help. For her, back on Ghost Town. Lysa was with Kelleth at the Whisper terminal. She saw the code. She recognized the spike. "He's not getting out," she whispered. Vega leaned over her shoulder. He knew. Lysa stood up. "We have a second shuttle." "You're not." "I can fly it." "No, I can fly it," she said louder. "He taught me." The room went quiet. Kelleth looked at Vega. "Your call?" Vega hesitated, then nodded once. "Go." The Dominion patrol was sweeping the wreckage, looking for Reed. He had buried himself in rubble, suit leaking, blood in his mouth. They hadn't found him yet, but it was close. Then a flash broke the sky. The evac shuttle, low, fast, dodging fire. He blinked through cracked lenses. "No," he whispered. The shuttle landed hard to hard, and out stepped YSA. Gun in hand. She found him, dragged him out. They ran together, side by side, weaving through wreckage and smoke. She was fast, brave, too brave. One of the patrol ships opened fire. She shoved him behind a hull plate, didn't make it in time. The blast caught her across the side. She fell hard. He screamed, not in rage, in terror, but she was still breathing, still alive, barely. He picked her up, sprinted to the shuttle, hands shaking. They lifted off, seconds before the Dominion sealed the airspace. He didn't look back, only down at her face, eyes closed, breathing faint. He didn't speak, didn't cry, but inside, something cracked for the first time. He wanted to end it. Not just survive, not just fight, end it. They touched down on Ghost Town, with smoke still trailing from the shuttle's cracked rear thrusters. Vega ran to meet them as the landing ramp hissed open. Reed stepped out, armor scorched black, blood on his arms. In his hands, Lysa, limp and pale. Vega's eyes went wide. "Is she alive?" Reed said. "Barely." Kelleth and 2 others rushed forward with a stretcher. They took her gently, carefully. Red followed, silent. His steps were heavy, his fists clenched. Inside the medbay, the machines beeped, slow and uncertain. The medic, an old Avaran nurse with shaking hands, did what she could. Vega stood beside Reed, watching Lisa's chest rise and fall. "She saved your life," she whispered. "She shouldn't have had to," he said. "She's a child." "Not anymore," Vega replied. "And neither are you," she didn't say, because Reed had changed too. For 2 days, he didn't leave her side, barely spoke, barely ate. Just sat there, watching the monitors, fingers tapping against the cold metal table beside her bed. The others gave him space. They knew this wasn't just a wound in a girl, it was a wound in him. A wound in all of them, because Lisa wasn't just a child. She was hope, and the Dominion had nearly snuffed her out. The whisper lit up again. Kelleth called Vega to the comms room. "Signal spike," he said. "Massive one. Dominion-wide broadcast, uncoded, bold." The message was short, cold, and terrifying. "We are aware of the ghost town settlement. You have 1 cycle to surrender," the human called Reed. "If you fail to comply, we will begin planetary purges, 1 world, every day, until he kneels." Vega felt her stomach drop. How many systems are under Dominion control right now? Kelleth's mandibles twitched. "Over 2,000 inhabited. And they'll do it." He nodded. "They've done worse." She found Reed standing outside Lysa's medbay. He didn't turn when she approached. "They're calling your bluff," she said. "They think I'm playing," he answered. Vega folded her arms. "They want you to surrender. They want fear back on their side. And if you don't give them what they want, innocent people die." He didn't reply. "You have a choice, Reed." He turned slowly. "No, they have a choice. They can keep pushing, or they can start bleeding." Vega studied his face. No anger, just absolute, surgical resolve. Then she said, "You're going after them now, aren't you?" He nodded. "All the way." Reed called for a meeting in the core chamber that night. Everyone came, over 60 now, human and alien alike. Fighters, builders, pilots, cooks, engineers, refugees. He stood in the center, looking tired but sharp. "This ends now," he said. "They've threatened children, bombed the helpless, lead and slaughtered without shame. They think fear makes them strong." He looked around the room. "I say it makes them weak. Silence, they want me. Fine, let them find me." He stepped forward, "But they won't like what I've become." Vega stepped in beside him. "We've got a plan. Not just to strike, to cut. We're going after the Nexus." Gasps, whispers. The Dominion Nexus was a myth to most, a hidden fortress, where all fleet commands originated. Nobody knew exactly where it was. The location changed every cycle. But Vega had found something. An old Dominion blacksite technician, captured weeks ago. He'd broken under pressure. The Nexus wasn't a fortress, it was a ship, a mobile AI-driven supercarrier, and it had a flaw. For exactly 47 minutes during internal data reboots, it became vulnerable to backdoor signals, one of which Reed had already used during the command relay hack. "We get a ship close," Vega said. "We break in, and we end this." Reed nodded. "Not with a virus. Not with sabotage." He turned to the Whisper terminal. "We're going to hijack their voice." The plan was suicide. Even Vega said it 3 times. But nobody argued. Not anymore. Reed was right. The Dominion needed fear to rule. But what would happen if they became the ones who feared? They built the attack vessel in 6 days. They called it the Wraith, based on Vega's stealth hull, wired with Reed's trap systems, powered by 2 of the stolen Dominion cores, and armored with plate from the downed Purge ship. It wasn't pretty, but it was deadly. Inside, it held two things: a powerful Dominion signal encoder capable of accessing high-level comm layers, a bomb, not a traditional warhead, something worse, something red called the mirror pulse. It didn't destroy, it reflected every Dominion AI signal back to its source, amplified and distorted. It would fry systems, melt processors, and feed panic into every comm line. A weapon of truth. A signal that said, "We are not yours. You cannot break us. We are coming." Reed piloted the Wraith himself. Vega offered to go. So did Kelleth. Even one of the younger pilots begged for the chance. But Reed shook his head. This was always my war. Lysa was awake when he came to say goodbye. She couldn't stand yet, but she sat up with help. Her voice was weak. "You're leaving again?" "Yes," he said softly. "For how long?" He hesitated, then sat beside her and whispered, "Until it's done." She stared at him, then said, "I want to fight." "You already did. I want to fight more." He smiled just a little, and handed her a small pendant from around his neck. Inside, the last image recorded on the Spectre's camera, stars, silent, vast, free, double quotes. "Keep this safe," he said. She nodded, and he left. The Wraith broke out of Ghost Town's hidden orbit with 0 signal trails. Stealth systems held no pings, no chatter, just one burning purpose: find the Dominion nexus and kill the lie that they were invincible. Reed spent 4 days jumping across systems, following data trails, cross-referencing Dominion pulse patterns with intercepted coordinates. He didn't eat much, didn't sleep. The AI on the Wraith, a rebuilt version of the one from the Spectre, spoke only when needed. Then they found it. Sector V314, near a collapsed star. No escort, no movement, just a massive, black ship, silent and still. The Dominion Nexus, waiting for its reboot cycle. Reed watched from the edge of the system. He checked the countdown. 12 minutes. Until the window opened, he sent a pulse. It hit the Nexus. Stirred, comm lines flickered. Data ports unlocked. The Wraith moved in, faster, tighter, straight, at the belly of the beast, 10 kilometers out. The Dominion AI noticed, 8 kilometers its defense grid powered up, 2 slow, 5 kilometers. The Wraith engaged the encoder. Data flooded the Dominion. Relay, red, uploaded the mirror pulse. They tried to block it, but it was already inside. The Nexus screamed. Systems crashed. The ship convulsed.ai. Voices overlapped, commands looped, and across the entire Dominion network panic spread. All of it live, unfiltered, broadcast. Through the whisper system, everyone heard it. Every planet, every station, every rebel cell, every slave colony. The Dominion's voice had cracked, and Red spoke into the silence. "This is not a rebellion. This is a reckoning. Humanity hears you. Now you hear us." He set the Wraith's final course straight into the Nexus. The ship hit. The explosion didn't light the sky, but the signal burned into every system in the Dominion's empire. It would never be erased. And in Ghost Town, the whisper fell silent. Just for a moment, then a new signal rose. Clear, uncode, simple. He did it. The ghost is gone, but we are not. And from a quiet moon on the edge of forgotten space, the fight began again. Smoke rose from the broken sky. Even weeks after the Wraith's sacrifice, the Dominion was still reeling. Their Nexus ship shattered. Their commands scrambled. Their systems glitched randomly, ships attacking the wrong targets, orders arriving days late, supply routes collapsing, in many sectors. The Dominion simply disappeared, not by choice, by fear. Ghost Town had changed. To Dot, it was no longer a hidden settlement, it was a capital. A beacon. Reed was gone, but his war had cracked. Something open. And what stepped through wasn't just humans, it was everyone who'd ever been stepped on. Vega stood on a makeshift platform, in the center of the town square, under a rising dome built from the bones of enemy ships. Aliens, ex-Dominion deserters, free humans, and refugee children stood below, silent and waiting. She looked down at the tablet in her hand. The message was fresh, pulled from whisper lines just an hour ago. "They're pulling fleets back to central space," she said. "Most of the outer colonies are left undefended, unclaimed." A cheer started, not loud, but real. Vega raised a hand. "This is not victory, not yet, but it is an opening." She stepped back. "And we're going through it." Lysa watched from the edge of the crowd, wrapped in a long jacket too big for her. Her side still hurt when she breathed too hard. The scar would stay. So would the dreams. She didn't speak much anymore, but she trained every morning with Vega, with the pilots, with the engineers. She learned to fly, to fight, to read Dominion tactical code, and she watched Reed's last transmission over and over again. She memorized every word, every pause. She never cried when he died, not in front of anyone. But she hadn't taken the pendant off since the whisper lit up again. Kellith adjusted the signal, scanned the encryption, frowned, then waved Vega over. "It's not Dominion," he said. "Not exactly. What do you mean?" "It's someone else, broadcasting through a Dominion channel." The message played, a voice, raspy, strained, but human. "This is Commander Saul Rafe. Earth Coalition, we've received the Wraith signal. Confirmed Dominion collapse in 4 sectors. Requesting rendezvous." Vega blinked. "Earth still has a fleet." Keloth's mandibles twitched. Apparently, Vega took 2 stealth ships and 10 volunteers. They met the Earth Coalition flotilla in deep space near the abandoned trade station at Lyra's edge. The ships were old, scuffed, running lean but real, and armed. Commander Rafe was tall, grey-haired, and missing a leg below the knee. When he saw Vega, he saluted. "Ma'am," he said. She laughed. "Don't salute me. I'm a pirate in all but name." "Not anymore," he said. "You're the center of the new map." He led her into the command deck, pulled up a star chart. "Over 100 cells have declared independence from the Dominion in the last 6 days. 70% human, 30% mixed races." She studied the map. Green dots blinking across the edges of Dominion space, and in the center still red, still strong. "The core is holding," she said. "For now," Rafe replied, "but it's bleeding. And bleeding things get hunted." He tapped the red zone. "What we need is a symbol. Something that unites these dots into a spear." Vega was quiet for a long time, then said, "I have an idea." Ghost Town received its first war council 3 days later. Leaders from 10 sectors arrived, each carrying their own scars, their own stories, some human, some not. One had 4 arms and no face. Another floated inside a sealed water tank. But they all listened. Vega stood at the front, hands folded behind her back. "We don't rebuild Earth," she said. "That was the old fight. We build beyond Earth." Her voice was clear, steady. "Reed gave us more than revenge. He gave us fearlessness, and if we don't use it now, we never will." A pause. "I want to launch a strike on the Dominions. Vault world. Not to destroy it, to take it." Gasps. Shock. Whispers. World. Someone asked. "It's where they store their knowledge," Vega said. "Their maps, their genetic records, their command secrets, their weaknesses." Kelleth added, "And their future breeding stock. If we take it, We break their back. They all turned to Vega again, waiting, one by one. They nodded, no more hiding, no more waiting, time to finish what Reed started. The operation was called HFY-style. It began with ghost signals, fake Dominion orders, lifted from Reed's final virus, and remixed by Whisper engineers. Next, stealth drones flooded local Dominion sectors, imitating rebel movements, drawing attention away from the Vault world. Then came the Husk fleet, old ships, painted to look like human vessels, automated to explode near Dominion ports. Suicide ships, empty, lethal, designed only to scatter the defenders. While Dominion scrambled, ghost towns, True Fleet, arrived in low orbit. 3 real ships, Vega on the lead, Kelith coordinating from a cloaked relay ship nearby, and Lysa. Flying solo. Her first real mission, she called her ship the Spectre's Echo. The Vault world wasn't a fortress. It didn't need to be. It was unknown, hidden in maps, shrouded in code, but they had the map now, and the code, and something else they had will. The Dominion was still bigger, still richer, still older, but fearless beats old. Every time the surface of the Vault world was a shimmering black plain, dotted with towers. No soldiers, only drones, only machines. But machines ran on signals, and Whisper had learned how to lie. As Vega's ship landed, the towers opened. The rebels stormed through. It was almost too easy, and that terrified them, because easy meant trap. And they were right. Inside the vaults, the Dominion had left something behind, something alive, something waiting. A creature rose from a tank pail. Hairless, massive, it spoke in perfect English. "I am the heir of the Dominion," it said, "built to end what your kind began." Lysa stepped forward, alone, small, and furious. "You're too late," she said. The thing tilted its head, "and you are." She pulled the pendant from her neck, held it up. This was his. The heir frowned. "Who's red?" And then she pulled the trigger. A short burst, straight through its skull. It collapsed. No scream, no legacy, just another dead lie. They extracted the data from the Vault's command. Secrets, fleet paths, genetic blueprints, every ugly truth the Dominion had hidden. Now exposed. The war was no longer a question, it was a countdown. And for the first time in galactic history, humanity wasn't fighting alone. They were leading. The data from the Vault changed everything. Names, coordinates, identities of Dominion overseers, secret weapons still in development, slave processing facilities, entire populations catalogued like cargo. And worst of all, proof that Earth's destruction had never been random. They had tested their purge protocols, their weaponized genocide trial. Humanity was a test case. Reed had guessed. But now, everyone knew, Ghost Town wasn't a town anymore. It was something new. They called it the Accord. Not a nation. Not an empire. A refusal. A line in the dirt that said, never again. And every day, more crossed that line to stand with them. Entire Dominion fleets went dark, crews mutinying, refusing to obey Central Command. In some sectors, Dominion governors opened their gates and surrendered without a shot. But the core still burned bright with resistance. The old houses, the royal bloodlines, the ones who'd made the decision to burn Earth, they would not go quietly. They called back all remaining fleets, summoned the last of their dreadnoughts. The final Dominion armada began to form, their answer to the rising tide, and with it came their last weapon, a being called Threxel. Threxel was not born, it was grown. It had no name in any known language. It lived in gravity. so dense no ship could fly near its birthplace. It had no need for ships. It was a weapon, taller than buildings, plated in living metal, fused with Dominion AI, wrapped in the pain-coded memories of 10 million burned worlds. It came in silence, and wherever it passed, light broke, the stars dimmed, signals vanished, hope shivered. The Accord tried to stop it. Ships were vaporized before they could lock weapons. A fleet of 6 tried to flank it. All gone, no distress, just silence. On Ghost Town, Lysa stood in the strategy hall, arms crossed, jaw set. She was 16 now, not the same girl, not for a long time. She turned to Vega. "We need to run." "We can't," Vega said. "Then we need to kill it." Vega smiled just a little. "That's more like him." Lysa looked down at her wrist. Still wore Reed's pendant. She'd never taken it off. Never would. "Threxel's AI is linked to the core grid," said Kelleth. "The same one we infected with the mirror pulse. It shouldn't exist. It adapted," Lysa said, "like Reed did." Heads turned. Kelleth nodded slowly. "Then we do what Reed did. We cheat." They began building the trap that night. Not a weapon, a memory. They took every last byte of Reed's ship logs, mission footage, comms chatter, every trick, every movement, tanned, fed it into a reborn AI core. It spoke again, in his voice, Reed's, the Spectre, reborn. Not flesh, but fire. And they mounted it to the last unfinished prototype in Ghost Town's dry dock, a sleek black ship, smaller than Rexal, faster, smarter, and angry. Lysa climbed into the cockpit without asking permission. Vega just nodded. "You're sure?" Lysa smiled for the first time in years. "He died, saving me." Her voice lowered. "It's my turn." The ship launched 3 hours later. Cloaked, silent, alone, just like the Spectre had once done. Only this time, Reed was the ship, and Lysa was the fire. Threxel stood above the moon of Caltros, absorbing its core. The sky boiled, but then it turned. Something approached. Small. Human. It raised its weapon, and Threxel laughed. But the ship didn't fire. It spoke in Reed's voice. "You tracked the human ship's signal, but it was already behind you." Threxel spun. And the trap sprang. 50 cloaked ships, decloaked at once, not to fire, to transmit. Every ship unleashed a modified pulse from the mirror weapon, hundreds of overlapping signals, each broadcasting Reed's last message. Magnified 1,000 times. Truth. Defiance. Pain. Love. Grief. Humanity. Rex outscreamed. Its code began to break. Lysa dove in close, piloting like she'd trained her whole life for this moment. "The Re-Day," I laughed with her. "This is going to hurt," he said. "Good," she replied. She slammed the ship straight into Threxel's chest. Not to explode, to enter inside the beast. She crawled through twisting metal and screaming data. The walls pulsed with pain code. But the Spectre AI kept her sane, speaking calmly, guiding her through the corridors of a living empire's heart. At the center, a glowing orb. Dominion Prime Core. The last piece of the old machine. Lysa pulled the pendant from her neck, Reed's last recording, and plugged it in. It wasn't a virus, it was a story. One final time, Reed's voice played inside the Dominion's brain. "I wasn't born special. I didn't have a fleet. I didn't have backup. I had grief, I had fire, and I had you chasing me. So I learned how to be worse than fear. I became the thing behind you, and now, so will she." Lysa pressed the detonator, not to explode, to erase. The prime core shattered, and Threxel collapsed. Silent, the sky cleared, the stars returned, and the last breath of the Dominion vanished. They found Lysa days later. She was alive, burned, scarred, but smiling. She handed the pendant back to Vega. I don't need it anymore, she said. Vega shook her head. No, he's yours now. And Ghost Town, oh, the Accord rose like a phoenix, a galaxy reborn. Not in the shadow of humanity's pain, but in the light of what came after. The memory of a man they tried to erase, but who became a signal the whole galaxy followed. And behind every system, every star, every story, humanity still moved, quiet, fearless, already behind them.